With the assassination of Caesar in 44 BCE, the Second Triumvirate was formed with Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus. Lepidus was quickly pushed to the side of a power struggle between Mark Antony and Octavian. As she had done to Caesar before him, Cleopatra started seducing Mark Antony into letting her into the great rising superpower that was Rome at the time. This, however, greatly angered Octavian because he felt that Rome was falling into enemy hands. In order to mend bonds with Octavian, Mark Antony marries his sister Octavia in a desperate attempt to mend relations. But in 37 BCE, Mark Antony divorces Octavia and meets Cleopatra in Syria, where they have twins. Meanwhile, Mark Antony's military campaign is not going well. Octavian feels threatened by Cleopatra because she's an outsider from Egypt and raises troops to fight Antony, keeping the empire in Roman hands. He declares war against Cleopatra and Antony in 31 BCE. On September 2nd, 31 BCE, the Battle of Actium takes place. Octavian has over 400 ships and 19,000 men, led by Marcus Agrippa, while Mark Antony only has 290 ships, but has over 22,000 men. Early battles put Mark Antony on the defensive at the Battle of Actium. With Marcus Agrippa raiding the Greek coast, supplies are disrupted that would normally be heading to Mark Antony's camps. Upon Octavian's arrival at Actium, the high ground has been taken by Mark Antony, and Octavian is forced to stay at sea. Up until now, all the battles have taken place on land, but now the battles are taking place in the sea. Mark Antony has small, fast ships like this one, and Octavian has large, slow ships like this one. The small ships help Antony easily outmaneuver Octavian's large ships and gain the upper hand. Even though Mark Antony has the upper hand for the moment, Cleopatra senses danger and flees with 60 of his ships. Antony, not wanting to lose Cleopatra, flees with her to Alexandria, and therefore Octavian wins, because Antony's side is down 100 ships. The Battle of Actium is seen as a turning point for the war and the start of a long road to the end of Mark Antony and Cleopatra, but the beginning of the Roman Empire. While Mark Antony and Cleopatra are hiding out in Alexandria, it takes about another year for Octavian's troops to finally reach Alexandria. As they approach, Mark Antony gets a message that Cleopatra has been killed in battle and kills himself. Even though Cleopatra wasn't really killed in battle, Mark Antony dies and Cleopatra is devastated. Cleopatra, being too proud to turn herself over to Octavian's troops, kills herself by letting a snake bite her. With Cleopatra and Mark Antony out of the way, Octavian proceeds to make himself emperor of all the Roman lands and people. Octavian kills Caesaron, Cleopatra's son to Caesar, and annexes Egypt to Rome. He also uses Egypt's immense wealth to pay off Roman debts and build great new monuments. The Battle of Actium is seen to many historians as the true beginning of Rome because it allows Octavian to gain full control of the power. This story also inspired the great playwright William Shakespeare to write a play about Antonio and Cleopatra. To look at the differences in the battle strategies, we first have to look at the environment. Greece has very mountainous terrain which makes transportation hard and visibility very limited. And Vietnam is very mountainous too, but it also has a very thick jungle. Jungle warfare has been described as the worst type of warfare because of the water, the heat, the extremely low visibility, and the bugs. The Greeks' most famous battle formation was the phalanx, where front soldiers would lower their spears and drive into enemy lines. The phalanx was the best formation at the time because soldiers could pierce into enemy lines while still being protected by their own shields. After the first few waves, the enemy would be overwhelmed. While the phalanx was an offensive battle formation, the square formation or orb formation was one of the Greeks' most effective defense formations. While in Vietnam, one of the most notorious chemical weapons ever used was Agent Orange, used to eliminate all foliage around bases for better visibility. But what people didn't know was that Agent Orange caused huge environmental damage and birth defects on the populations. Soldiers in Vietnam used automatic guns and had backpacks full of ammunition and food to support them, unlike the spear and shield of the Battle of Actium.